I'm Andrew Terrell. I'm the president of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton, and we're here standing in the lovely community and harmony gardens that it's taken us 2 years to put together. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that have really been instrumental in making this garden come to fruition. We're grateful for all of the work that they've done, the town of Oakville for allowing us to use this land, Elder Peter Schuler for blessing this land, Halton Environmental Network for looking after the land, and the residents here in Oakville for supporting us and embracing us as we have come to them and say we'd like to put a garden in the middle of their community so everybody can use the garden in order to grow vegetables, grow flowers, but also use it as a point of reflection as well.
Hello everybody, welcome to Oakville. How many people are not Oakville residents here? How many people had to open up their passports at the border? Either coming from Hamilton or Mississauga. Yeah. Burlington's another one. We don't want the Burlington people in here. Well, thank you everybody for coming. And we're here to celebrate Emancipation Day. And a lot of people have said to me, is Emancipation Day something that we should celebrate? And I say yes. We should celebrate Emancipation Day because we are trying each day to build a safer community and break the shackles. And it's been over 100 years that we've been able to do that. And not only should August the 1st be Emancipation Day, but each and every day should be Emancipation Day. What do you think about that? I just came back from a European trip, and as I was making my way through the luxurious food and the lovely architecture and a lot of that was going on, I really realized that Canada is just a baby compared to over there. When I was on the tours and heard about the culture and the history, they are talking about 2,000 years ago and over 1,000 years ago. And here Canada is less than 200 years. And in that 200 years, the Indigenous people have not done well. And when I was over there, I had the opportunity to go to a concentration camp. And if you ever have the opportunity to do that, that's one of the things that you should do in life. And you get to really come to terms with the atrocities that went on, and also the incredible indignities that one human can impact to another. And we are immensely proud, and I am immensely lucky and blessed to be in a country that we are free to do these things. And we're lucky to be in a municipality that today, Emancipation Day, that we're having simultaneous events. So not only are we celebrating Emancipation Day here in Oakville, we're also celebrating Emancipation Day in Milton at the very same time. And there's also another Emancipation Day event that's happening up in Halton Hills. And this morning I was at an Emancipation Day event in Burlington. So I'm happy to be in a place that we can really do that, and we have the support of our municipal partners. And in February, there was a little lady who came to me and said, Andrew, I'd like to do something about Black History Month, and I'd like to do it with the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. And I thought, well, who is this lady to begin with? Who is this one coming to me talking about it? And I said, I've never met you before, so the answer is no. And she did not take no for an answer, I'll tell you. She's a fiery one. And over the course of 2 hours, we talked about what Black history is in Oakville, and what it means to me to be Black in Oakville. And she understood why when she came enthusiastically to say, Andrew, the Oakville Chamber of Commerce wants to do something, the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton for Black History Month, why I said, no, until you present a plan for the other 11 months out of the year. As part of that plan, we're here today celebrating Emancipation Day in partnership with the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to give to you the CEO of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, Franz Fournier.
I don't quite remember it that way, but he did say no to me. I did not come in February, I came in October. And Andrew said to me, aren't you going to ask me to be a member of the Oakville Chamber? And I said, no, because we're a community organization and you're a community organization, and we're both working to make Oakville better. And, you know, because we love this town that we live in and that we work in. And that is our goal at the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. And so I am thrilled to be partnering with the Canadian Caribbean Association. And he did say yes in the end. We did host a business after hours here at Queenie Park, and we had lots of marks. A lot of our members who came had never come to see this beautiful town facility that we had, didn't realize that this was here, that the art that is exhibited here through the Oakville Museum as well. So there's so much cultural history that we have in Oakville that is part of our fabric and part of the business fabric, the community fabric, the residents, and so on. So our team at the Oakville Chamber and our board of directors feel that that's very important to participate in that. So we planted a garden. I have to say, we don't have green thumbs here at the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. It's our first year planting a garden. Next year will be better, I hope. I really love this one. I'm having lots of garden envy. But we are honored to be here today. Thank you so much for our partnership, and I look forward to more events that we can do together.
Thank you, Franz. When we came up with the idea of having a community garden, the first thing that we thought about is we're going to need some land. Where is this community garden going to go? And there was a lady who was on staff, her name is Natalie DeCane, and she came up with this idea that behind the Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Center, which has been our home for, I'm thinking maybe it's been 10, 12 years, we are the first tenants in here.
Your mother, Veronica, and I decided that it was time to revive the traditional Emancipation Day in Oakville that had been celebrated from the middle of the middle of the 1800s, actually, and it had ceased, it had fallen away in the 1920s, and something happened in the 1920s to chill on that. In the 1920s was when the Ku Klux Klan got themselves all hot and bothered over in Hamilton and came steaming into Oakville, and had a couple of cross burnings and did other nefarious things. And so, and that story, what it did was it inspired me with Veronica to say, witnessing for the positive way to live together, witnessing for human rights, witnessing to go in the right path is a constant piece of work. And we don't want to yield the ground to those who would divide us and hate us and cause strife and turmoil among us. And so it was important to revive that. There's a lot more to that story. There's a film being made about the Black experience in Oakville. I don't know if it will delve into that or not, but the Historical Society has our beloved Historical Society and our museum have all of the details of that story. I think it's worth your time to go dig it up and look at it, or I'll stay for a while, and if you really want to know, I can tell you the drama. There's a lot more than I'm only hinting at what was a very dramatic story. And with that, that's why the Emancipation Day picnic has been a constant ever since. The proclamation, which it's my pleasure to issue every year, says, whereas on July 9th, 1793, the legislature of Upper Canada passed the Act Against Slavery, which committed to the abolition of slavery. And then, on August 1st, 1834, some years later, the British Parliament abolished slavery throughout its empire. And whereas through the Underground Railroad, Oakville welcomed thousands of former slaves who traveled from the United States across the border to freedom in Canada. For many escaped African Americans, Oakville Harbor was their first view of Canada and the beginning of their new lives of freedom. And whereas Oakville's Emancipation Day picnic dates back to the 1850s, when African Canadians from across the country gathered at Georgia Square to commemorate their journey to freedom. And whereas in 2007, I and Veronica Tyrell of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton reintroduced the annual picnic at Georgia Square, which is now held at the Oakville Museum. And whereas to commemorate the struggle for human rights and the contributions made to Canada by Black Canadians, the governments of Canada and Ontario enacted bills that designated August 1st as Emancipation Day. And whereas on June 29th, 2015, Oakville Council declared the first Monday of August as Emancipation Day in honor of our proud heritage and to celebrate freedom, I therefore hereby proclaim August 7th, 2023 as Emancipation Day in the town of Oakville. Thank you very much, everybody.
Peter has been involved in our day camp as well, where he comes in and teaches the children that are here for 8 weeks, 40 kids a day, 8 weeks during the summer, about the truth of Canadian history. So my friend, will you come and tell us about this land and honor this land in the way that it should be honored?
I guess it works. Bonjour. Hoje biga nini dago Mashikando Dam, Mississauga Ojibwe Nishnabé and Dal. New credit in the Six Nations and Donjaba, Mi Oma and Donjaba. My English taxpayer name is Peter Schuler. That's a fine Ojibwe name. My real name is Ojibiege Anini. And if you want to translate that, it means man who writes. And so when Andrew talks about I'm going to need some land, we heard that a long time ago. I think maybe the first guy who got off the boat, he might have said that. We're going to need some land. And when Andrew talked about going to Europe, and you should visit a concentration camp, you don't have to go to Europe. Just go to Brantford, residential school. Kind of has the same thing in mind. And when it comes to the land, well, Andrew and some others say the land does not really need recognition because it knows what it is. I really strongly disagree with that. Oh, she says this one's better. Is it better? Yeah, sir, that's right. He just he dropped a truth bomb there. He says, I never met a Mike I didn't like. Anyway, I think he's trying to say I talk too much. But the land itself, I always start off with this by saying I want to recognize the nations that were here first. The Mitikok Nation, the Gigon-Sak Nation, the Manadon-Sak Nation, the Benishyak Nation. And of course, everyone looks around and says, I don't remember seeing those in the history books. Of course you didn't. They're largely ignored in the history books. As a matter of fact, they're only mentioned if there's a dollar sign beside it. So the Mitikok Nation is the tree nation. It's all standing around here. The Gigon-Sak Nation, you go over by the lake, look in the water, you see the fish. It's the fish nation. The Manadon-Sak Nation is really important. This garden cannot exist without the insects. We, all of us, have been taught to ignore those nations that were here first. My ancestors, we did not ignore that. Nindawi Magladuk, that means relatives. And we recognize all these nations that were here first, relatives. And that is why I say the land acknowledgement should acknowledge the land. The nations that came next, the Ojibwe Nation, the Cree Nation, the Cayuga Nation, the Seneca Nation, all those nations that you might find in the history books, those are the ones that came next. And they understood and respected all of those nations that were here first. The nations that came next came from across the water, and they did not understand or recognize those other nations. They only recognized those nations if there's a dollar bill attached to that nation. And that's all they see, is the money. At the same time, the government was trying to make us slaves. There's a process they went through. It's starvation, treaty. Starvation, treaty. There's different kinds of slavery. Before those nations came here, we roamed around here free. I have here this little thing. I think it's a coin purse. But what's in here is more valuable than the coin. In here is esama, what you call tobacco. So all those other nations that were here first, they agreed to keep us alive. We didn't have stores. All you had to have was some of this. And you went over here. Bonjour. We gwachitun, giwi anoki, we wadokanin. I ask you to help me. And we would take some tobacco, and we would take that. We would take that one's life, and it would give us life. And it didn't matter whether it was an animal, a plant, a rock. It didn't matter. So we have this Emancipation Day in this garden, which, as I was coming here, I was thinking about this. These are your relatives. You have this garden here, and you look after your relatives, and then your relatives look after you. They, in effect, set you free. You can plant your garden, save some, what we call a junia, which is that folding stuff and the clinkly stuff, money, and you can stay healthy. You can get exercise. You can talk to these relatives. you can recognize the ones who are here first. And I don't care what religion you follow, I think it's important that we do that. To be thankful for the relatives, the ones who are here first. And I think it's really important to recognize that even though we're free, you have to understand the history of this country. And it's not nice. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to be ashamed of it. You just have to know it and live with it. And I don't have any choice but to live with it. A lot of us don't have any choice but to live with it. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone does. But, learn it. Learn the ugly parts and the good parts, because it's not all ugly. But like I said, you don't have to go all the way to Europe to find a concentration camp. Sometimes our own people say the reservations are a concentration camp. I don't really agree with that. It's just a part of the land we have left. I like it there. And I like it there because I have a little piece of land there. And there's trees, all kinds of buddy things, flowers. I even saw a bullfrog the other day. First one I've seen in a long time. And I said, "Bonjour, omaki." Hello, frog. And you know what he said? He said, "Ribbit." No, he didn't. They don't talk like that. Those ones, they go "Ruh, ruh," like that. So, get to know your relatives. Go for a hike. Go for a walk. And, if a bee lands on you, don't go like that. Go like this. "Hello, bee." They won't bother you. It's only when you start waving around they think you're attacking them. And, honeybees, if they sting you, if you have arthritis and they happen to sting you on that part, I can help you out. You don't believe me? I bet you don't feel that arthritis right now. Anyway, my wife does say I talk too much, so.
And that's why I'm here today on behalf of Sheridan and as a resident of Oakville. Just briefly, I'll mention 3 things that I've learned in my life, and that's why I'm here today. I was a TV reporter many years ago for covering crime and politics in downtown Toronto. And some of you will remember the Summer of the Gun in 2005. And I was one of the reporters covering that. And of course, I would go into work every day and my news producer would say, "Noman, there's been a shooting in Scarborough. Get the camera and get out there." And I would go to the Malvern neighborhood. The families of the victims were Black. And I did those stories day after day of covering, interviewing the victims' friends. And one day, one of the Black mothers, in my senseless, I need to get the top story of the day mindset, I said to the mother, "How are you feeling?" She said, "Turn off your camera and I'll tell you how I'm feeling."
I am not going to kid anybody. This community garden took a lot of money to put together. And although we would like to have really good intentions, there has to be people who put action behind those intentions and fund those intentions. And there is a lady here by the name of Wendy Ranella, who is with the Oakville Community Foundation. And when I had the idea of putting together a community garden that would support the community, but also I wanted a community garden where people could sign up for a plot and they didn't have to have any money. They could choose which vegetables they wanted to grow or flowers that they wanted to grow, and they didn't have to have any money. And they could harvest those vegetables and take them home to feed their families or just to sit in a lovely surroundings and just watch their flowers grow, and they didn't have to have any money. And also I wanted a place where not only the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton members could go, but the community as well. This entire Bronte community could come and they could sit and reflect, not only on the plots that people are growing, but also on the Indigenous gardens. And I will show you as well that there's a treaty sign there to delineate that we are here standing on the border of Treaty 14 and 22. And Wendy was the one that put action behind that intention. So I'd like Wendy to tell us just a little bit about that and the role that the Oakville Community Foundation played and the Community Foundation of Canada played, and then as well as the federal government. And then we will raise our glasses and we will celebrate our founder, Isilda Bailey, and her daughter is here today, Arlene Duncan. Thank you, Arlene. And the longtime president of the Canadian Caribbean Association for 30 years, Veronica Terrell. So here you go, Wendy.
Ani, Wendy Ranella Indigenous. Hello, I'm Wendy Ranella. That was a little bit of Anishinaabe that Elder Peter's been teaching me. It is an absolute privilege to be here. 2 years ago, in 2021, Andrew came to us with a great idea, actually to bring forward to the Canadian Healthy Communities Initiative. I think I've got it right, CCAH, I think that's what it stood for. Federal funding for outdoor projects during COVID. And there were a lot of wonderful projects, and his didn't get picked. But what we decided to do at the foundation was, because we found so many wonderful projects, we wanted to fund them directly. So we created the Oakville Healthy Community Initiative, and this garden was the biggest recipient of funding. And then the second year, the federal government decided, hey, that was a really great idea, that garden. And so we were able to fully fund this garden to meet all the intentions. So I am so thrilled to be here, because as someone who funds community building, there's nothing better to see than people from various walks of life. Elder Peter, Hen is here, the Chamber's here, the Royal Bank and Sheridan are here, the town is here, the mayor is here. It's awesome that this is truly a community garden. And it's being used every day by CCAH summer camp kids. And that is just wonderful. And this is a huge community asset for us. I'm also delighted to be here because this garden is recognizing two really impressive women who lived in our community, who left a wonderful legacy, not only for their community, but for their families. They got their families involved, their sons involved. I didn't know Isilda, did I get it right? Yes, Isilda Bailey, but I did meet her stepson, Donovan. This park is somewhere around here. I think you can access it very closely. And one of the very first things Donovan Bailey told me when I met him was that his stepmom was the founder of CCAH, and that was really exciting. And of course, I did meet Veronica Terrell. Anybody who met Veronica Terrell remembers the first time I met her. She asked me where I was from, and I said, I'm from Winnipeg. And then she liked me because she lived in Winnipeg. And so we had a lot of stories to share.
Thank you, Andrew. So it's Emancipation Day, a day to not only celebrate the abolishment and the emancipation from slavery, but also a day to celebrate the strength and perseverance of Black communities, to recognize our ancestors, those that came before us, and the shoulders of those of which we stand. I'm truly pleased to represent my mother here today, whose love of people, her community, and her Caribbean Jamaican culture was the inspiration for creating the CCAH, and her love of gardening, which she was very into gardening, and that makes this honor and recognition all the more poignant and meaningful. I would like to thank everyone involved in the planning and design, and look forward to seeing how it grows and flourishes in the future.
I want to thank the Halton Environmental Network. Ellen Marley? Ellen? There you go. And Andrea, where's Andrea? Here, Andrea was involved in the community consultations, and another person who's been involved with this garden since the beginning. And we're very lucky to have them. People who aren't very good gardeners, they can completely disregard their garden plots, and the Halton Environmental Network will come in and prune and water and do everything that needs to be done. I also want to thank David Klaus. David, where are you? Wherever you are, David, please raise your hand. There's David. And David has a crew of people who put that landscape architect plan that we had and made this out of it. So he's the one who put all of this together, and this is his handiwork. You did this with your own two hands. I'd like to thank the Healthy Communities Initiative, our members of Parliament, Anita Anand and Pam Demoff, who are really good ambassadors for us. The town of Oakville, Chris Marks, who's the director of Open Parks, as well as Beth Robertson, who is a counselor, or who was a counselor at the time. She did a lot of moving, heavy lifting to get this community garden through, and Sean O'Meara. And I'd also like to thank the CCH private donors who put a lot of money behind this. So it's a legacy not only for those two strong Black women that you heard about today, but also it's also here for the community. And I would like to also thank the residents who are within earshot of me here today. Thank you very much for all of the things that you've done as we were getting this put together. You really put a lot of thought into how the garden should be run, what it should look like, so that it would be a good representation of the community. So thank you. So I'd like to get a few people here, the mayor and Franz. Is Franz still here? Franz? If you could join me here. So we have to, maybe a countdown. 3, 2, 1.